Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Toolbox Tuesday, the weekly webinar designed to help put tools in your toolbox to pound out problems and sharpen your saw. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the critical officer role of Vice President membership. Our presenter today is Brian Peters. Brian is a member of our training team, and I've known Brian for quite a few years. He's a good friend, and something that I always appreciate about Brian is when he delivers a presentation, he comes prepared and ready to give a dynamic talk. So I'm not going to hold you back with a bunch of ramble, and we'll get right into the talk. Thanks for coming out tonight. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Dave. I'm so excited to be here this evening to talk about the president's role. I am very much looking forward to, Thank you, Dave, for the wonderful introduction, but I'm not here to talk about the president's role. It is important to have a good first impression, and I just made a terrible one because I messed up the intro. Well, truth be told, I did a little bit on purpose. But as a VP of membership, you're the director of first impressions. It's really important to have guests come. We really want to have 20 members in our club, because 20 members helps to sustain a good environment for leadership, for mentoring others. It provides plenty of opportunities for club meetings for everyone to fill the roles. So the number of 20 members is really a good target. So to that end, we want to always have new members coming in, because inevitably the bucket's always emptying. They move on for various reasons, and there's always attrition in Toastmasters clubs. And yes, there are some clubs that have members that have been in the club for 30 years, but many clubs have a lot of turnover, and that's okay, because the key is that you always have a good membership base. So what I'm here today to talk about is the VP of membership. And I'm going to steal a little bit of thunder from the VP Public Relations presentation Joanna did a couple weeks ago, if you missed that one as well. So before we get started, Dave, if you may, I'd like to ask the audience if they can raise their hand if you are currently a VP of membership. And I see we have, of the attendees, we have 8. So Jane, I see your hand is raised. If anyone else can see how to raise your hand, just trying to get a feel for the crowd, or feel for the audience. And please, at the end, we're going to ask for some open time, some feedback from everyone online to provide questions for anything that we may not have covered. So it looks like we got a few, and that's okay if you're not. So I hope we don't start losing members. People stay online even if you're not a VP of public membership, excuse me. So about half, maybe more, depending on if you can't find the button to raise your hand, and then that's okay. So what is it to be the VP of membership? You are responsible for a number of things. And really, when I was a VP of membership, I really relied on the training by the clubs and this club leadership handbook. If there's, for any reason, you didn't get one of these manuals from your president, then that's okay. And I'm going to share my screen, because that's very simple to find your membership manual. If you open up a browser, and here I'm in, well, you can see my past search history, Club Leadership Handbook. You don't even have to type Toastmasters. It'll come up right away, and you'll see it's a PDF file. That is the PDF file of this manual that I just held up. You can see they look the same people, looks like, on the book. And it is the same book. And the nice thing about a PDF file is, one, you can print whatever pages you like. You can have copies of it. You can have it electronically. So if you go to meetings, you can have it with you. But if I scroll down, one of the other benefits of this book is that all of these headings are actually hyperlinks. So if you see the club in the area, you can actually just click on these, and it'll take you directly to that section of the manual. And I'm going to scroll back up a little bit. So before I get any further on the club and why is the club membership so important, and actually you can see right here in this this graphic, which I really like, the anatomy of a club, because it shows the foundation of the club officers. First and foremost, the top 4: president, VP education, membership, and public relations in red. In the middle, they're really the core of the officers. The secretary, treasurer, sergeant at arms, and even the immediate past president are valuable members as well, all supporting the club. Those positions in particular, especially the president, you'll see that, or the VP of membership, is what we're going to speak about today. And you'll see this code in this manual. If you haven't read it before, and I suspect maybe perhaps some of you have, we'll go over this fairly much faster, but you'll see this red dot. Throughout this manual, there is a red dot. And right there's the first one, the Club Constitution for Clubs. Here's a section, and who does it apply to? You can see your symbol is the red circle if you're a VP of membership. So as you read through the manuals, you'll see wherever that red circle applies, that applies to you. You are a part of the club executive committee. The president of your club should have had, hopefully soon, if not has already, a club executive committee. Club officers meet to discuss the business for the club. And here is the details of a club executive committee and the committee meeting and what is the agenda. I'm going to keep scrolling down because there's one other point I wanted to talk about, and that's the area. As the VP of membership, you also are a member of the area council. And here is the description. Again, you see the red circle is by this section. I'll zoom in again. As part of the area council, this would be led by an area director. Typically, we should have at least 2 of these, meet at least twice a year. You see down here at the bottom. Area council meets at least twice a year, and the objective would be to discuss club officer training, membership building, share across the different clubs within the area, promoting the Distinguished Club program, and the area speech contest in the spring as well. Identifying a location, volunteers. When I was the area director recently, actually last year, it was a good opportunity for clubs to meet each other. There was a couple clubs that had strong membership and a couple that didn't. And it was a good opportunity to structure events or strategize how the area could help individual clubs. Perhaps it's a speech contest or a speech craft, and fill the room day where we have a lot of guests and a big promotion to get new members. So that area council, I guess, so I just wanted a quick plug for, you are a part of the area council as well, along with the VP of education and the president. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to skip down into the VP of membership. So I'm going to skip down a little bit farther to the club leadership roles. And the first is the president. We're going to skip over the president. They get enough attention. VP of education. Skip over that as well. And then we'll get to the vice president of membership. Just a couple pages to read if you haven't already done so. And I'm not going to spend time to go through each of these individual details. Great reading, good details. But what is the objective and the responsibilities of a VP of membership? First and foremost is recruit new members. You're the director of first impressions. To get guests is a membership. To get guests into the door is really the responsibility of everybody. Everybody should be inviting and promoting. As the VP of membership, you can help promote that and ask people to invite people, as well as the president should be promoting guests to come to the clubs. But recruiting new members and getting those members to come into the door and then greeting them. So recruiting new members, conducting membership building programs. If your club is in a situation where you have a low membership, maybe you're 12 or 13 members, you might understand and appreciate the challenge it is to have a good meeting when it's hard to fill all the speaking roles or hard to find a timer and a grammarian and evaluators. So membership building programs may be appropriate. Assisting guests, helping them get oriented, maybe assign a mentor or a meeting buddy. So have an experienced Toastmaster sit next to that person and that guest to help explain any questions the person might have or help them with anything, and processing their membership applications. So before club meetings, having the guest packets. I have a couple examples here I'll show in a minute, but having those guest packets for those guests is really important. You have a small window of opportunity to really connect with a guest and really make that first impression a positive one. And when you're well organized, you have all the information and they don't have to read it all right at that moment and remember everything that you're saying to them. that they can just take in the environment, and remind them, looking at the guest packets, that this is information that'll help you to review and consider whether or not Toastmasters is a good organization to help you. So during clubs meetings and after club meetings, having that guest list or the guest book where people sign in, it's important to follow up with the guests. I know that was my big challenge, was to keep track of all the guests that come, and we actually belong to a corporate club, so the list was even smaller. For more public clubs, I know you get a lot more guests, so it's even potentially more of a challenge. But follow up with the guests after the meeting, ask them how it went, get their feedback. And something I always struggled with is, you get a lot of good feedback from those guests, is how do you relate it back to the club, and how do you improve? So if the guest says, I really had a hard time hearing in the back of the room, how do you relay that for the next meeting so that you can really make sure the guests feel welcome and can hear well, just as an example. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. There's some scenarios, and we can talk about those at the very end if there's, but I'd rather focus on your questions that you face. At the very bottom, there are a number of resources as well. So some membership growth programs, some great manuals to look up and learn more about that help for you in the VP membership role. So from there, I'm going to shift gears a little bit into some examples of some guest packets. Again, the impression, or the first impression that we get that our guests have when they come into the club, is the organization and the detail, and having a good room set up for Sergeant at Arms. All of those things are really important. Having a guest book, something that they can sign in and you can have a record that they were there. I visited a couple clubs, and some of them, when they had guests, they'd had a big whiteboard at the front of the room in that particular conference room. So what they did is, there was 3 guests in the meeting that I was at. They put each of our names up on the whiteboard in big letters so that everyone knew their names and can remember. We still get name badges, but it helped me to really feel important. My name was up on that board, and I was welcomed as a guest and encouraged to come back. So with that introduction and with coming to meetings, here are a couple examples. I'll slide back a little bit. So here are a couple, these are just some plain folders. See, one happens to be orange, nice and bright, gets somebody's attention, not a bad idea. This is for our club, the blue one, which happens to match our company colors a little bit better. So this is more why we chose blue. But what's important about both of these is that when you open them up, okay, I think there was something in this side of the folder, but I ended up using the folder other things, so I don't remember what was over here. But for this one from Saturday Morning Live, what was really important is that they have a guest membership application and a description about Saturday Morning Live. What I liked about them, and I wanted to share, is they have this trifold pullout that has information about their club. I know you can't read this, and I do have the file here. So this is what it looks like. So you can see it a little bit better, and I'll make it a little bit bigger. So what's on this brochure, if I fold it out, what you see on your screen right now is this part of it. And you see the type of information. It's the mission of the club, the benefits. On the other side of the trifold, if I go to page 2, you'll see a little bit more information about a typical meeting, the time, the meeting information. Again, all laid out nice and simple on this brochure. And on each tab, you can see Saturday Morning Live, the branding repeated. So it's a nice, simple pamphlet, a little trifold that I liked, and so I wanted to share that as a little, maybe more public relations, but it was a good document. I felt that did well in the guest packet. But I wanted to share what we did for our club, and this is not unique. Actually, a lot of this came from another club. Actually, Sharon Haig in our club did this work, and so I want to give her kudos, which she will also told me that, well, she got a lot of this from other clubs, so she shouldn't take all of the credit. But I will give her some credit because she put a lot of effort into this. So just trying to line up the pages. So when you open up the binder, you'll see a few different pieces of information. On the right-hand side, you'll see these pages, welcome, there's these tabs, but these are actually 5 separate pages. And this first one right at the bottom is welcome. So as you look at this document, it's a small page. So it's actually a full-size page that was cut so that when you put it back in, it sits right at the right height. So they're in order. So the very first page says welcome. The second one that we want them to look at is our mission and vision, how to join, why Toastmasters, and the program outline. I'll show you shortly each of those documents in greater detail, but again, that's a good way to have all of the information for the prospective members, all the kind of questions they might have. And on the left side, there is a guest card. We're asking them for their information, the date they visited, their email, their contact information, and then right behind that is the membership application. Behind the membership application, there are a number of documents relating to tips, best practices, the icebreaker speech, the outline, and the evaluation form to really show how that information, what you would do as an example of a speech and how you would be evaluated and how can that help you to improve. So those are some good examples. What do they look like? Here is a folder that we have, and with Dave's help, following this meeting, we'll get this zipped up or this file out to everyone. It's not very large. You'll see these files labeled L and R. So the right-hand side, those files I just talked about, this R01 Welcom, here is what it looked like. Now you can see it a little bit better than what I had up, just holding it up. So it's a brief description about Facility Improvement Masters. The next page was our mission, the Toastmasters mission, the vision and mission of Toastmasters International and our club. And again, this is not a unique mission of the club. This is a mission of any club to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. That is such an important mission. I just like reading it out loud. Number 3, how to join. Really simple question. Well, what is the cost? How do I join? We want them to become members. We want them to help become members. You can join anytime. And again, this is a club-sponsored program, so we had a different message in terms of the cost. So it's for non-employees, the membership fee is this, but again, it depends on this because we're a corporate club, but we had a different message for the cost of how to join. The next one was why Toastmasters. Again, giving them reasons why join Toastmasters. The potential, become a better speaker, a better leader. It really works. What happens when I join? So all of the benefits of Toastmasters, and lastly, a program outline. So what does it look like? And hopefully they're sitting during a meeting. This will all look familiar to them at the end of it. They'll remember, oh, a table topics, role-playing, Toastmaster, table topics master, all of these different roles, which can be surprising to some that never been to a meeting. You can have a good description for what these positions are after the meeting. They can read through it and now realize, oh, that's what the accounter, I see why that's important. So each of those are on the right-hand side. Left-hand side, I mentioned the visitor sign card, the membership application, the icebreaker. So this is the icebreaker speech. So here's speaking assignment number 1. Now I know with Pathways this has changed. So this started 2 years ago. So I think maybe we need to relook at this, but I still think this is a valuable piece of our document. Now that that is something I wish I had done before this presentation, but this is the icebreaker presentation, including, which I like, at the end is the evaluation guide. What do we look for when we do an evaluation? Then we have tips. So here are some tips for successful public speaking, knowing the room, all these good tips that people like, I wish I could be a better speaker. Here's some great examples of things to focus on to become a better speaker. Speaking tips from the pros, brainstorming, practice. And lastly, I like this one, the value benefit chart. I'll zoom out a little bit if I may. So what are the features, benefits, and value of Toastmasters? And again, it can reinforce for them what's important. How can it help them? Maybe they didn't consider that leadership is a big aspect of Toastmasters. So in that guest packet, hopefully if we can get that to you within the context of this webinar, great. We'll find an alternative way either on our website to provide that welcome packet.
Hey, Brian,
yes, Dave.
As long as you're sharing your screen, can you go to the D106 Toolbox Tuesday website?
Yeah. D106. There it is. Thank you.
And if you scroll down, Toolbox Tuesday, just click on the big Toolbox Tuesday right there. And where this is going to show up is right next to this webinar. So we just have to get it, we have to get the file linked up here. So where it's Vice President membership right at the top.
Right here.
It'll say and sample welcome kit.
Perfect. Thank you.
The file isn't quite there. I've got to work through a little bit of the logistics of how to get it there, but that's where
we'll have it. That's a great point. So see, people can come back and click on this link to watch the video and then find it in this place. And hopefully you'll see my screen right now. It's not here, but if you are watching this recorded in the future and you go to this website at this location, you'll find that link. Thank you, Dave.
Yep.
So that covers, I guess, the main things I wanted to share, which is where to find this information, and reinforce the guest packets are a really good conduit for making that first impression with those guests. Again, it's everyone's responsibility to try to get the guests into the door. Once they're in, how do we communicate and look professional, answer any questions? We're in Toastmasters for better communication, and we want to make a great first impression. Being well organized with a guest packet really goes a long way. Having those questions answered that they might consider later when they're not when you're not around, having some conduit of way to communicate with them through that guest card is really helpful. In the future, we'll use more technology, perhaps including, I don't know if you noticed, but in the inside of our guest packet, if we have a QR code. So having a QR code or some other way to make it easier for people to use their smartphone to connect with you, either have that bring up your website, which is the last and final piece where I'd like to conclude, is in our website for Facility Improvement Masters. Little future plug for next Toolbox Tuesday, not the next one, but one in January, where I'm going to actually go through the free Toast Host website and show how some benefits in setting this kind of a program. But having a landing web page for your club is really the conduit for that communication. So hopefully that's plenty of information for those prospective members. They can find the meeting information. They know where to meet and how they can find you. A lot of information. I kind of glanced over some of these documents, and I'm glad to spend a little bit more time to talking about those. But I'd like to open it up to questions. If anybody wants to submit some questions, we can talk about them. And if you wanted me to look at any of these documents in particular, no, well, I'll pause for kind of any
so
questions.
If you have questions, you can either use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. All right, we have a question from Jane. When will we have marketing materials from Toastmasters that reflect pathways? Jane, I'm going to have to share some marketing materials. I saw something come out. It was posted on the, I want to say, the D106 Twitter page, and I am not a good tweeter, so I'm falling down a little bit on that. I'm having a hard time finding it, but when I get it, I will also put a link on the video page, and I'll email it out to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, that is a good way. Maybe that's a better way to communicate with some of the members for clubs that are in the social media and Twitter or Facebook, to communicate that way. Perhaps that's a better way.
Brian, we've got a question from Nicolina. Can you see that?
Yes. I see it I was a little late to join. Perhaps you talked about this already. Can you please give us some ideas of how to advertise our club to have guests come and observe the meeting? This would come into the area of the public relations a little bit, but actually it's not uncommon for many clubs to combine the role of public relations and membership. So it's actually pretty pertinent to many. And to advertise your club and how to get the club to get people to come, I think it's the power of many, quite honestly, is my opinion. In terms, there are lots, and watch the VP of Public Relations video that Joanna Carley did 2 weeks ago. She covered a lot of really good ideas and creative ideas to answer that very question. But I also like to promote the club and have individuals invite guests, invite friends to come out. And I remember a division training we had 2 years ago. A great suggestion was ask a friend that you know, not with the expectation to join the club, but say, hey, I'm in a Toastmasters club. I've been in it for so long. I always hear evaluations from them. I'd really value your feedback. Would you come and watch me and give me feedback on my presentation and let me know what you think? And that's a great way to get a guest to come in, and they might enjoy it. So that's another creative way to get more people. And you look for the power of the club. You ask everybody to do that. If everybody did that, if you have 20 members and each meeting you had 2 of those members bring a guest, it's 10%. You're going to have a pretty good ratio of getting new members in the door. So great question. I encourage you to watch Joanna Carley's video. That was on a couple weeks ago. In fact, if I go to Toolbox Tuesday and I can see hers was that this one, Dave? October 9th?
Yes, it was.
It was. I apologize. That was not a couple weeks ago. My time is flying by. So October 9th. And Michael, sorry, I wouldn't it make more sense to combine the VP membership and the VP public relations roles? I've encountered times when both officers do the same thing and confuse the applicant. Yeah, they are often combined for officer roles, so the same person can do both. They are fairly similar, but again, if I were to go back to the handbook, and when I look at this, here is the description and the differences. So public relations is there to promote. So they're the marketing person. So that is a slightly different role, a marketing, versus the membership, which is more about providing the information when they're in the door. So it's kind of a question of whether they're in the meeting or you're trying to get them in the door.
Yeah, they are distinctly different roles. And ideally, it would be better to have a vice president public relations and a vice president membership for just that matter. The VP public relations is responsible for reaching out to the community and getting people into the meeting. The VP membership deals with guests and helping guests convert into members. So that is the distinction. It's VPPR focuses on getting public to guests, bringing guests in, and once guests come in, it's a handoff to the vice president membership, who is working to help convert guests to members. Different skills, different mindset, and ideally it should be handled by 2 different people.
Right. Very good point. Thank you, Dave. And thank you, Michael. Great question. Great distinction.
All right, Brian, it looks like we have run out of questions. So,
all right. Then I'm going to wrap up, at least with my opinions and my overview. My objective tonight was really to help, if you're a VP of membership, how to help you. And I wanted to share some examples of some guest packets and with the file, just as some ideas. And you're welcome to change. Get that message to be consistent with what your club wants to say about, and how do you attract those members to become, or those guests to become members. And I wanted to teach you to fish. The old analogy, I'm not going to feed you, I want to teach you how to fish. Where to find the information. Toastmasters.org is another great example. There were some links down here. I'm certain as we go at Toastmasters.org, there will be more information that ties in pathways to this information, to these programs. And in the future, keep looking there for better documentation. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Google searches are great. They'll also find you some good materials, but especially these club leadership handbook is fantastic. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight, and Dave, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
All right. We had a question come in. Did you say that we'll have a welcome package available at your website? We're going to post it right next to where you found the link to register for this website. So on D106, and then if you scroll down to District 106 Toolbox Tuesday and click on that big red box in the middle, and right next to the recording, when we post the recording for this webinar, we'll put a link for the welcome packet. Also, down by Vice President Public Relations, which was an older recorded event, I will also put a link once I find that. And I apologize, it's just a little hard to search for stuff while we're running the webinar, but I will put the link to the marketing brochure for Pathways. So that'll help get some information out. So this is a good spot to come back. You can review information and we'll get that taken care of. Hey, I want to thank everyone for coming out. Brian, I want to thank you for putting on this presentation. I hope you found some value in it. And next week, we will not be having a Toolbox Tuesday session. We're having our first District 106 Club Officer training. It will be at the Ridgedale Library, and I believe it is 6 to 9, but I would recommend that you go out to the calendar or the events calendar on the D106 website if you're interested in taking that in, and we'd love to see you out there. Our Club Officer training sessions are a lot of fun. They're interactive, and we're looking forward to getting out and meeting some officers. Thanks for joining us tonight. This has been Toolbox Tuesday. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.